Today I'm going to talk a little bit about breath mastery. I don't know if that's really a good term, but it's a term often used in Pranayama instructions. A better term might be breath harmonization, or breath synchronization, breath sequencing. The last one, scratch that. But sequencing applies to forms of logic where you build an argument of consequences. If you think this, then this is the result. And then if the opponent challenges that, whatever he says challenging that, you might say, well, if you think that, then this is the consequence of that. And it's called sequencing because in a debate on Buddhist logic, it would lead to either the opponent surrendering and giving up his argument, or the opponent defending his position very well so that actually he wins the argument through the debate. Logic and reasoning has very little to do with breath mastery, at least as far as the mastery itself goes of the breath. But as an adjunctive support, as something that supports analytical meditation, or rewind that, as something that supports breath mastery, analytical meditation is excellent. It's just not to be done at the same sitting. So when you're practicing breathing, regulation of breath, or harmonization of breath, you're actually not engaging in reasoning of any kind. It's more of a yogic function where the focus is on energy channels in the body. You can imagine your body as a miniature universe. And if you're really still, you'll see that there's a lot going on, and that there's, just like there are planets in our solar system, there's centers of energy in our physical body. The more you relax your mind and allow your awareness to be completely still, the awareness of these energy channels that are usually so subtle that we don't notice them become very evident. So, obviously, that's what we want to achieve through a quiescent of any kind of disturbances of mind so that we can be completely still and aware. So there are many forms of meditation that have been developed to do just that. Immediately coming to mind, of course, is mantras and visualizations of various kinds, mandalas, simple mindfulness of breath, which is not what we're talking about here, where we're just aware of the breath, keep our awareness on the breath. This is a very good beginning practice, and it's also a good way to begin a practice if one's already in advance or been practicing for a long time. to just begin with a very simple practice, just like a basic awareness of the breath. So, how does one still one's mind through breath awareness or regulation of breath? Very simply, when we regulate our breath, we're controlling the inflow and the outflow of breath. And after every inhalation and exhalation, we pause. Now, what I just described is one of hundreds of ratios that one can do. But they all work on the same principle. So if you understand one way to do it, and you get good at the practice, you can apply that knowledge that you gain through this very basic one that I just referred to, which is called Sama Pranayama, because it's even. You can apply it to any form of breath mastery, any ratio, any technique of regulation of the breath, of the many that there are. If you're a person that practices pranayama seriously all the time, and that's your main practice, you probably will do many of these different ratios. Myself, whose main focus is not pranayama, it's a combination of analytical meditation, mantra recitation, walking meditation, and samaya pranayama, which I just described. It's a combination of several things, so I don't have an emphasis on any of them. I practice them all in a very much balanced way. So, what we're doing when we practice regulation of the breath, we're keeping in mind some basic facts of life. When we are born, we take an in-breath. When we die, we take an out-breath. In yoga texts, they define death as the last inhalation and exhalation. So, when we're born, we take a breath. We go through our lives, and then at the end, we take an out-breath. And that's it. A lot goes on in between. Many thoughts, many dreams, many memories, many actions. And throughout all this time, we're living our lives, and as we were born, we will die with the same breath. So, by analogy, when we're practicing breath mastery, we will allow the term, because I'm so used to using it. When we're practicing breath mastery, we can think of our in-breath as being born and taking in all the good qualities of life and all the good thoughts, good ambitions, motivations, good qualities we have. We can think of, just like our lungs expand as we breathe in, we can think of that all our good qualities are increasing. Now, we all have our faults, and some of us have more faults than we have good qualities, or we may think we have. But everybody has good qualities too. And so when we breathe in, we imagine our good qualities and think, just as our lungs are expanding and taking in air to replenish ourselves, our good qualities are increasing and we're becoming a better person. We're being born anew with each breath, with each inhalation. Now, when we exhale, we imagine that all of our negative qualities are diminishing, just like our chest is no longer expanding, it's getting more contracted. So our faults are also getting less until we imagine they're being exhausted with the out breath. So with the inhalation, good qualities are increasing. With the exhalation, negative qualities are decreasing. This may seem like an awful lot to think about and make us feel that our breath is getting rushed. But you have to understand that it's a mental disposition. It's an attitude of mind. You're not thinking of each and every fault or each and every good quality. You're just being aware that taking in the air is replenishing the body. Taking in the air is increasing good qualities. Exhaling the air is exhaling used air. And we're depleting our negative qualities. It's an attitude of mind. So exhalation is like death to negative qualities. Inhalation is birth to good qualities. It's simple as that. We may have, through heightened awareness, new insights into our good qualities or our bad qualities. When this happens through breath mastery, it's very wonderful. And our only thing we have to do is be aware of it, passively aware of it. Not hold on to it, whether it's good or bad, treat them both the same, and just simple mindfulness and awareness of whatever arises and whatever decreases, whatever is let out. So the breath, as Sri Yukteswar, which was Paramahansa Yogananda's teacher of what's called Kriya Yoga, which the Buddhists, at least the practitioners of Mahamudra and other disciplines too, subscribe to as and incorporated in as a Buddhist practice as well. So without going into the heuristic details of the evolution of Buddhist yoga and Tantra, let us just say that we borrowed some stuff from what was long known before the Buddha's time. Yukteswar points out that breath mastery is learning how to offer the inhalation or inhaling breath to the exhaling breath, and offer the exhaling breath to the inhaling breath. Now, when we do that and we think of these breaths as an offering, the aim is to attain a complete balance where the two breaths neutralize each other, and that's samadhi, that's breathlessness. That's when the breath ceases altogether. You don't know that you're breathing, and you don't know you're not breathing. And I don't know anything about this, but I know a little bit. So if that happens, then of course there's nothing to do. You're not really in a position to do anything. But it's called equilibrium. It's like when a balance scale has an equal weight on each side of the scale, and it is even, perfectly even. So if the breath gets perfectly even, they balance each other out perfectly. And that's when the breath ceases and we enter what's called one of the dhyana samadhis. Technically, I believe it's the second dhyana, but it can go all the way up to very, very higher dhyanas than that in the samadhi. But if the breath stops, that's the second dhyana. Heart stop, first dhyana, and so forth. The highest, paradoxically, which really great masters like Master Xuanhua and Tusha Rinpoche, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Choto Rinpoche, Dogo Kenze, Urgyen Tulku, these great masters and many yogis, they attain a state where the breath ceases and then resumes again without them losing their state of samadhi. So these are highly enlightened masters, incredibly enlightened. You can imagine that they are as aware in a state where the breath is resumed and they're going about their daily affairs in a state of samadhi. So that's why, hats off to the great masters. They deserve our respect. So let's just look at some of the very basics of actually practicing what I'm talking about. One would begin, and we're using the example of Sama Pranayama, which means even breath, even retention. So just for sake of example, begin with an exhalation and holding the breath for, let's say, just for the sake of a number, let's say 5 seconds. Okay, you can count to 5 if you want. Or you can say Om 1, Om 2, Om 3. Amitabha 1, Amitabha 2, Amitabha 3. Om Tara 1, Om Tara 2, and so forth. Or you can just count. So if you do a retention, beginning with the retention then the next thing is, of course, going to be a inhalation. That should be the same length as the retention. After that inhalation, once again, a retention. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I always think of the retention at the top of my head and the retention after an exhale towards my navel, but you can think of it any way you want. But you'll probably find it naturally goes there. So after the retention at the top, exhale for the same amount of time as the retention at the top. And then when that exhale is completed, again, a retention at the bottom. So it's basically retention 5 seconds, first beginning with an exhale. Retention after that exhale, inhalation, retention after the inhalation, exhalation, retention after the exhalation. How to begin? Begin very modestly until you get the hang of it. Do what is easiest. If you can do 5 seconds, great. If you can do 10 seconds, great. If you can only do 2 seconds, that's okay too. But the important thing is that you begin by regulating your breath and finding where you're at with it. My experience, everybody's very, very different. Some people can begin with, a particular ratio, let's say 5 seconds. Another person can only do 2 seconds. And another person maybe 10 seconds. So each individual must find his own ratio, what works for him. And so it's not working for you, the ratio that you've chosen, if after 1 or 2 or 3 rounds, inhalation, retention, exhalation, retention, so forth, you find yourself gasping for breath, or, not be able to complete the exhalation and having to go like that. You want it to be very, very smooth and even throughout. And so you look and observe yourself where you're not ever gasping or stuttering. Your breath is never like that. But it's also difficult also. It's not like you're just like mindfulness of breath is, like you're just watching the breath go in and out. You're regulating it. It's strenuous. But you have to be careful that it's not too strenuous, because if your breath is stuttering, then you're not going to do any benefit for yourself. So what I have found over the years, at least 25 years of doing this, is that right from the beginning I noticed that first I found my ratio, what was comfortable. And then, of course, you'll find what was comfortable one day isn't comfortable the next. So it might take 4 or 5 days to find out a ratio that's comfortable for each individual. Each individual has to find out a ratio that's comfortable for himself. Then practice it every day. And always keep in mind that the breath must be kept even. Even is the key. The inhalation, retention, exhalation, retention, inhalation, retention, exhalation, retention, so forth. All has to be even. So you're not rushing to take a breath or rushing to exhale so you can take another breath. There should be a level of comfort in it. But what I have to say is that you'll find that, you'll get more comfortable with it with practice, and your times in the beginning will increase dramatically. With the increase of time will be the increase in realization too, because nothing supports meditation better than this practice. And so this form of meditation will dramatically and positively affect all other forms of meditation, including study. So that's why it's the most common pervasive practice in all disciplines, all forms of mind training employs breath mastery. All. It doesn't matter what it is, what practice it is. It's integrated in every single form of mind training. And there's a good reason for it. The reason is it works. It's very, very effective. So even if it's not your main practice, it's the best adjunctive support you could possibly give yourself. So just keep in mind, no straining whatsoever, but no laxity either. So you're finding the balance between overexertion and underexertion, where everything is even. Equanimity, evenness of effort. We're talking evenness of effort. If there's not an evenness of effort, and then you can hurt yourself, you can damage your nervous system if you're straining and stuttering and gasping. That has to be ruled out. Don't be too ambitious, but also don't be lazy. There should be a good deal of effort, but not so much that it pushes you over the brink. if by chance you don't time it right, and even myself, sometimes it happens that I'm having a bad day or something, I find myself gasping or something, I just quit, do something else. Or I just set a more modest goal for myself. But if you keep in mind that point about being somewhere between laxity and overexertion, so in the middle way between not enough effort and too much effort, works for breath mastery, just like it works for all forms of meditation. So the point of this, I hope, is made that this is a phenomenal practice. Surprisingly, many people do not employ this practice in their meditation. It's more difficult than other forms of meditation. For example, myself, I just do 1 hour a day, but many people, even find 10 minutes too much. And actually many texts on pranayama practice suggests 10 minutes in the morning and evening because it is strenuous. It's not mindfulness of the breathing. It's much more efficacious, it's much more powerful, and it requires much more effort. So if you want an effective technique that doesn't take a long time, this is the way to go. It really works. Just use it properly. And good luck to everybody.